Good morning, everybody. How are you all doing? I'm so excited to be back on here doing streams. It's been a little while since I did my last one, so I'm very, very happy to be back. I have a couple scheduled I think I'm doing one every Saturday for the rest of this month, and I'm super excited about it. How are you all doing? I see some of you are already in the comments. Hi, Micah. Oh, I'm so sad you won't be able to join the stream today. It's okay, though. Next time, as I just said, I'll be on here every Saturday for the rest of the month, and I think I'm going to stick to about 2 to 3 every month moving forward. So we'll have many more in the future. Yes, I hope you can make the next one, too. Hi, Anjali. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy that you are here and are going to come write with us. Hi, Maya. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, I'm so happy that so many people are here. We're going to be able to get so much work done this morning. I'm not sure if I will be able to write during the stream, but I will read. Oh, that's awesome. Reading is just as productive as writing. You don't need to come to these and write. You can, I like to call them productivity sprints. Like, you can really do whatever you want. I just always like using them to write. Although I really honestly should probably be using some of these to read, because I always get so behind on reading. Like, I'll pick up books and I'm really enjoying them, but I always prioritize writing over reading. And I need to, it's one of my 2022 like habits that I want to form in my head to like start, reprioritizing reading a little more. Cause I always find that I become so much better as a writer when I'm reading consistently. Hi, Bridget. Thank you so much for coming and writing with us. Hi, media attorney. I'm so glad that you could make it. No, you are not late. We are just getting started. We've been live for, I think, about just under 3 minutes. So no, you're right on time. Hi, Renee. Thank you so much for coming and writing with us. I'm so excited. Oh, we're going to have such a good time. This is going to be a fun group. Anjali said, I will read a dystopian romance thriller today. Oh, that sounds cool. I've never read one of those before. That sounds kind of like 3 different genres in one. Like, I don't know. I don't know. The books that I associate with dystopian are more of like the Maze Runner, Divergent, kind of big blockbuster YA dystopians. But I don't know if I would consider those thrillers. Would you guys consider those thrillers? That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before. So what are you all going to be working on today? I am actually today officially starting my 4th draft of my book. I'm not entirely done with my 3rd draft, but the way that I work with my editor is I'll do a chapter a day. So I'll send him a chapter, and then every day then I'll like edit another chapter later on in the book. So by the time we're at that point, like the chapters will be ready to send to him. So I'm going to actually send him chapter 1 today. So I have to go through that first thing this morning and like make sure all of my own little comments, because I'll leave little comments to myself in the margins, like describe this better or add more sensory details here. And so I have to make sure I go and check all of those things off. And then I have to edit a chapter later on in the story, or actually I think write it from scratch because it's a brand new chapter. So it's going to be a busy morning. What are you all going to be writing? Oh, it's called Legend. Oh, okay. I have read that. I think the one with like the gold cover, right? I read that. I loved that book. That was a great book. Yeah, Legend is awesome. So, are you guys ready for maybe starting our first sprint? We can start with a 15-minute sprint. I'm still like a little bit not fully awake yet, so I have to go make my coffee and kind of warm up my brain before really getting into these edits. So I'm thinking maybe we start with a 15-minute sprint and then we increase the time as we go on. Thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm glad that it's the same book. Renee said that they're mainly editing. That's very cool. Yep, me too, at least for half of it. I don't know why. I'm on kind of a tight publishing schedule for this book, and I've never been on such a tight publishing schedule before. So I've always been able to take a little bit more time to like finish draft 3 and then move on to draft 4. But I'm experimenting this time with seeing because I already have a very fleshed out outline for what I want the rest of the book to be like, and all the different things that I need to change in order to have it be kind of a cohesive whole. So I think because I have that, it will be okay that I'm like editing a first chapter with my editor and then working on writing a later chapter in this draft and fitting it all to my outline at the same time. But it's going to be an experiment. I will let you all know how it goes. So if it goes horribly wrong, you will know that maybe that's not a good thing to do. Yeah. All right. How about we start our first sprint? I will share my screen. How was your week this week while I'm sharing my screen? I just saw the new Spider-Man movie last night and absolutely loved it. I was obsessed with Spider-Man when I was in middle school. He's always been my favorite superhero, so I totally geeked out seeing that new movie yesterday. It was so awesome. Um, I have to make sure that I actually share the sound like I did last time. Okay, cool. So, I am going to start the timer, and happy writing, everybody. I will see you in 15 minutes. Have a happy warm up. Man, that scared me a little bit. It's been enough time since I've done one of these that took me completely by surprise. How was that sprint for all of you? It was pretty good for me. I just feel like I mean, I didn't do that much. I just edited the first couple of pages. I saw on TikTok like last week that changing the font of the chapter that you're working in can help you, I think, like catch typos or read it in a slightly different way, like read it like your eyes aren't used to seeing the words. So I've been trying that. I'm like fully reading this chapter in Comic Sans, and it's interesting. It's like I'm catching things in the language that I don't think I would have noticed if it were in my usual font, because I always write in the same font. I'm a big Helvetica girl. I just like, for whatever reason, like Arial and writing in that. I can't write in Times New Roman for some really weird reason. I can edit in Times New Roman, but not for too long. I don't know why that like Arial just like feels like a safe space for my creativity. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but it's going well. So I'm so happy to see that so many of you could stop by during that sprint. I am so happy to see so many familiar faces. This is so fun. Hello, thank you so much for coming and joining our sprint. Please suggest some ways to improve my writing skills. Currently working on my first novel, and I feel like it's not standard enough. What do you mean by standard? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by standard. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about genre expectations, like you can study different genres that you want to write in and learn the general expectations of readers in a certain genre. But, you can have books that are really, really wonderful that don't fit cleanly into genre expectations. Like when I was writing They Stay, I didn't really focus on genre too much. I mean, I know that like in self-publishing, a lot of people are very talk about writing to market a lot, but I didn't really write They Stay to market. I just wrote a story that I wanted to tell and a story that I thought was really interesting. So I think that first and foremost, like the actual story that you want to tell is more important than fitting into genre expectations. If you want to expand a little bit on what you mean by standard, I don't know if this is actually a very helpful answer. I can, take another stab at answering this question. But, I think just generally reading a lot helps you improve your writing skills, practicing a lot. I mean, I think that you just need to spend a lot of time writing to learn ways that you can get better as a writer. Like you can watch a million YouTube videos, but if you're not practicing all of the time, you're not going to be able to internalize the writing advice. I think personally that like the way that I can measure whether I've actually learned something from a course or from YouTube or from whatever is when I can actually start writing it without thinking about it. If I'm like consciously thinking about it, I'm still in the process of writing. But as soon as I'm able to kind of take this thing and bring it like naturally into my writing process, and I'm not having to think about it every time I do it, that's when I start actually being able to adopt that advice. And you can only get that with a lot of practice. So I hope that helped a little bit, but feel free to ask it again in all sorts of ways, and I'm happy to take another stab at it. Hi, Miranda. Happy New Year. I'm so happy that you are joining our sprint today. I'm so happy to see you in the sprint again, too. Yes, this music is quite iconic. I've been saying this in sprints that I'm keeping it, and so far this is going to be the timer sound on all of the sprints. Oh, I'm so glad that you're enjoying Legend. Yeah, I don't remember how far I got into that series. I remember I owned all three of them. I think it was like Legend, and then one of them was Champion, and I don't remember the other one. But yeah, those were really good books. I got 20 words. Very nice. That's honestly probably more than me. I spent like 3 minutes just staring at the second sentence, trying to decide whether I wanted another action like tag for this line of dialogue or not. So, that's what the first sprint is for. Hi, Jennifer. I'm so glad that revising is going well. Printing out in a different font works well too. Yeah, I haven't printed it out because I always edit so many little things as I go that I always find that when I do the big printout too early, I end up wasting a lot of paper. So I wait until I think like closer to line editing to do the big printout, and then just like cover the prints with notes and stuff. 201 words. Wow, that's very impressive. That's very awesome. Congratulations. Isadora said, I outlined a couple of chapters. Very awesome. That's very, very cool. Outlining is very important, at least to me. I think that a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, I'm starting to, after talking to some people who are like, who do like outlining their books, but they always feel that it kills their joy for writing. I really think that like outlining is either something that really helps you or really hurts you. Because I think if you're more of a discovery writer, outlining can make it so it's not super exciting to write the first draft. So it's always interesting to see like whether people like to outline and not like to outline. And I don't know, I don't think that, I hear a lot that like people who are published always say that as soon as you start publishing and writing on a schedule, you have to outline your books. I don't think that that's true. I think that there are writers that like work a lot better when they don't outline their books. But I'm also hardcore an outliner. I also can't write outside of Arial, just doesn't work. Yes, okay, I'm so glad that you understand. I don't know why that is the case with me, but I just like, I really cannot function outside of that font. Plot grid method is not working for me that well, but I want to use it. What do you recommend? Oh, yeah. So I'm so glad that you're experimenting with plot grids. I don't think that plot grids work as a method for everyone with outlining. Just as I was talking about before, you know, there are some people that are really better off not outlining and some people that like work well with outlines, and plot grids are kind of a really hardcore method of outlining because you get a lot of detail out of your plot grids and that might be a little bit overwhelming. But I mean, I like them because I'm able to really see all of the different parts of my book all in one place. And I'm able to do a lot of the thinking about my story ahead of time. So if I'm like, you know, going to write and then I'm running into a plot hole, I can see that plot hole coming on my outline and I can fix it and figure out what I need to do to fix it before even starting writing that draft. What about it isn't working for you? Is it just like, is it too, like there are too many different boxes? Is it like the program that you're using to write it? Is it just like too much information going on there? Because like maybe that might not be the right outlining method for you. Or, you know, maybe you could find a like easier way to do it. I mean, I don't know, like some people really enjoy doing it by hand. But yeah, let me know what exactly about it isn't working and we can try to brainstorm together ways to fix it. Miranda said, I recommend writing a story that is original to you. Don't write a story to please your readers, but write a story to please yourself first. If you don't love it, then most likely many people won't. Exactly. Yeah, this is really, really well said. I completely agree with this. I think that, you know, like understanding from a marketing perspective, different genre expectations is always helpful, but I don't personally believe in like, you shouldn't base your entire creative process over genre expectations or what you think a certain audience that you may not even be a part of will want to read. So read something or write something that you really, really love first, and you can work out the rest of it later. Media attorney said, I'm so glad I'm not the only one who does that. Miranda said, I'm personally not a discovery writer since I write historical fiction, so outline is crucial for me. I use plot grid method ever since I found it through Claire. Oh, I'm so glad that you use plot grids. I love, oh my God, I can't talk. I also think I'm like coming down with a little bit of a cold because like my nose is a little stuffy. I can feel like the congestion in my head as I'm talking. Yeah, no, I'm so glad that plot grids are working for you. Yeah, I honestly, I'm so in awe that you can write historical fiction. I've never been able to write historical fiction. I have so much respect for historical fiction authors because it seems like so hard to balance all of the different, like what happened in real life and what's happening in your story and like everything you need to research from like the way that they speak to different things that they would see. Like I just, hats off to you. I think it's so impressive. Isadora said, I've been using plot grids ever since I saw your video on it. Oh, I'm so glad that you're loving it. Oh, that makes me really happy. I'm glad that I've been able to share this method of outlining with you all. It absolutely changed the way that I outline after I discovered it. Anjali said, I just want to write in the plot grid method, but it takes me forever to write in the boxes. I actually just want to get over with the plot grid, so I finally write. Yeah, no, I absolutely know what you mean. Sometimes I get really frustrated when I'm writing the plot grids because it takes me like a little while to do it and then I just want to start writing. So I would focus on like, maybe you don't need to fill in all of the boxes, but like you can fill in all of your main plot boxes. So like, you know, with They Stay, it's a mystery. So I had like the main mystery plot of like a girl trying to find her younger brother. And that was like my main plot. And then I had all the other subplots, like the romantic subplot and the friendship subplot and, you know, like all the different little things. And I would recommend like making sure that only if you want to do the plot grid outlining, that your main mystery plot has all of the boxes filled in. And then maybe your subplots, you just have like a couple of like little boxes filled in. You don't really need to go crazy there. So you have like a general outline of like your main plot and then a couple of little things that you want, or maybe the main things that happen in all of the other boxes, and then go from there and then start writing. And then you can always move things around, but don't feel like you need to fill in every single box before you start writing. Just like the whole purpose of the plot grid is to give yourself a general idea and the confidence to move forward into your draft, knowing what's going to happen, and something that you can fall back on whenever you're drafting and get overwhelmed, maybe that you don't know what's going to happen next. Because I always feel that I lose motivation when I don't know what's going to happen next. That's why I can't be a discovery writer, because that doesn't excite me. That feeling, that like really terrifies me and makes me lose motivation. Renee said, I only plan characters. Really, I have a whole notebook for one book, but only a page of that is vague plot notes. The rest is character stuff. Oh, that's really interesting. What genre do you write in typically? That I'm curious, because I would find that very hard to do with mysteries and thrillers, because I have so many different little moving parts and clues and things that I mean, maybe I could, and then I'd go back and add them later. I don't know, but yeah, let me know what genre you write. I'm curious. Anjali said, "Oh yeah, that would be helpful." Oh, good. Yeah. No, I mean, just it's worth trying, and then you can see if it works for you, and maybe it doesn't. And all of writing and learning how to write is a giant experiment to see what works for you. Miranda said, "People think that historical fiction is super hard, but it really is not that difficult once you get into a routine of research. It's all about passion and staying dedicated to the story." Yeah, that's what I heard. I interviewed a historical fiction author on the channel I like think back in October. And that's what she was saying too. And she used to write historical fiction when you had to like go to the library, and like when Google didn't exist, and had to read a bunch of books and research that way, which I thought was crazy. But no, exactly what you said is also what she said. Oh, you write why sci-fi and fantasy? Yeah, that's a crazy. I can't believe that you don't have an outline. You only do character notes. I'm very impressed by that. I could never do that. Especially like, I mean, do you do like world building in your notebooks too? Because I think, I mean, for sci-fi, you'd also probably have to do a lot of world building. Miranda said, I'm a chaotic person in real life and I do a lot of things. So that's why the complexity of writing historical fiction fascinates me. Fair enough. Yeah, I think the challenge of writing books in general, like mysteries and thrillers, are a huge challenge for me, and balancing all the different like pieces and putting things together. So that's why I think like the challenge really holds my attention very well. um, Oh yeah, no, historical fiction is great. I need to read more historical fiction. I have a couple of like historical horror books that I want to read, but I need to really start moving through my TBR a little. And I have a couple of arcs I need to get through by the end of the month. So I'm gonna focus on that for now. All right, so how are we feeling about doing our second sprint? I think maybe we should bump up the time. How are you all feeling about doing 25 minutes? Let me know. I think like my favorite lengths for sprints are like around like 25 to 30 minutes. And I think like that's the sweet spot when I'm editing. But if you are all doing like more writing heavy and would prefer shorter sprints, let me know. But going once, going twice, I will share my screen. Oh, good. 25 is good. Awesome. Here we go. Happy writing, everybody. Good luck. I will see you after the sprint. I kind of wanted to have that play out until the end of the, like, you know, like I don't like cutting it off halfway in the middle of its little like song that it's singing. How is that for all of you? That was a better sprint for me. I got some coffee finally, which was lovely. And I am almost done with my little comments on the first chapter. I don't have that many notes to myself on this first chapter. The only thing that I had written is just like add some more sensory details because like they're at in a hospital at night, so that has a lot of potential for like some creepy like beeping sounds and like ominous lighting and stuff like that. So I wanted to set the scene a little bit more in that regard. But I've been sprinkling in a couple of little things and reading through it, and I feel really good about this chapter. I'm glad that like it's in a place where I'm feeling good about it, because some later on chapters in the book are going to take a little bit more work before I submit them. So yeah, how was that for all of you? Did you get a lot of work done? I saw that we had a couple more people join us during that sprint. Yes, hi Diane, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if that was a reference to you or to me sneaking in with my fresh cup of coffee, but either way, coffee is a good thing to have. I'm glad that you could join us for the sprints. Hi Michaela, thank you so much for popping in and writing. I am so happy to see all of you here. Gauze Tape said it was good. I'm nearly done with this chapter. I'm rewriting my current story because I wasn't satisfied with the original. Awesome. Well, it's always good to know. I mean, rewriting is so important. The book that I worked on for the past like 6 years that I finished last year, I rewrote that book like 8 or 9 times, like just so many rewrites in all sorts of different ways because I wasn't completely satisfied with the way that the book was being put together. So it's good, and there's a lot that you can learn from like experimenting with different ways to tell the same story too. Like it teaches you a lot about narrative, voice, and point of view. And yeah, I don't know, love revisions. I think wasn't it like Neil Gaiman who said like, or I don't remember who it was, but like or maybe it was Michael Crichton or someone that was like, I don't like writing, I like rewriting, and like all of writing is rewriting. I don't remember. It might have been Michael Crichton. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Hi, Piper. Thank you so much for popping in. I am sorry that you won't be able to write with us today, but yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of sprints this month and, you know, like 2 or 3 times a month going forward. So there'll be a lot of opportunities. Have fun with your grandparents. All right. Well, that wasn't a super long break, but I don't know. I'm feeling like good and like nice and warmed up and like I want to keep working. Um, um, I can kindly say I am not a bot, but I do know that like for people that don't know writing sprints, it might feel a little bit weird to like jump in while we just have the timer and are quietly writing. But no, I am not a bot. I hope that you are able to stick around and write with us a little bit if you wanted to. I am so glad that you got a lot of work done, Isadora. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that this might end up being a little bit of a longer sprint for me because I have so much to do today. I want to see if I can like get it all done because I have to film some YouTube videos in the afternoon and I want to get all my writing done before I film. So how are we feeling about just like jumping into another sprint? I am kind of excited about the part that I just left off this chapter. Do we want to like maybe bump it up to 30 minutes or let's stay with 25. We can stay with 25 minutes. But take this time while I set up the timer to go get a drink of water or go top off your coffee, go get a snack. I am so excited about, I love editing. Editing is fun. I am so excited that this book is going to come out in just a couple of months. Like I had a moment, like it's like less than 3 months away, which is crazy and a little bit daunting. It's crazy that like I really only have a month and a half before I need to send this book off to the printer for my ARC team. So, and it's like not at all finished. It's going to be a busy month and a half for me. Oh, good. I'm glad that you are all ready to dive in again. 30 minutes is good. All right. Yeah. Let's bump it up to 30 minutes. I'm setting the timer right now. I seriously get so much work done when we do these sprints. Like I love doing this with all of you. It's like accountability sprints. It helps me be so productive. All right. So happy writing, everybody. Happy productivity. I will see you in 30 minutes after our next sprint. Alrighty. How is that for all of you? I finished the chapter that I was editing, so I'm really, really happy about that. Yeah, that was a really, really good one. I also I had my full cup of coffee now, so I'm like all pumped up and ready to go. Yeah, I'm about to send this first chapter to my editor, and then I'm gonna get started actually sprinting and like writing the words that I need to write in order to write this chapter that I need to finish by today. I'm on a very strict one chapter a day of like actually like editing and having it ready to send schedule. So I need to stick to that if I'm going to have this book ready to send to my ARC team in a month and a half. So very exciting. That's awesome that you got 130 words. Congratulations. That's very productive. Gauze Tape said, I finished my chapter. Awesome. Congratulations. Very productive. Isadora said, the sound really spooked me. Yeah, I know. I wasn't expecting it that time. I wasn't paying attention to the timer and it spooked me too. It's so loud and triumphant though. Like it always makes me feel like, yes, I did finish this sprint. I am amazed. Like I don't know. I like the little flourish that it gives. Yeah, I like doing these longer sprints. They are nice. I'm also excited now that I'm working with my editor again. I love working with this editor because we do one chapter every single day. And whenever I send a chapter, like I also send an email and then he sends me a long email. And it's like, kind of like we become like pen pals for like, a month and a half when we're working on the book. And I get to hear all about how he's doing and how his family's doing and his life. So I'm excited to kind of restart that again because I really enjoy sending emails back and forth every day with him. So that's going to be very fun. So I'm this next sprint going to start by writing him an email and sending him the first chapter and then get into this kind of crazy chapter that I have to write next, which is like kind of a turning point in like the police investigation stuff that is happening in this book. It's like raising the stakes and my protagonist finds out that they're starting to find a little bit more evidence implicating her for murder and she is starting to really freak out about it because she, did do it. So she doesn't want to get caught. So Michaela said, okay, the small research isn't small after all, 250 words, that sprint. Whoa. So you're researching swords, you said? What kind of stuff about swords? What have you learned during your research? Isadora said, I'm really close to finishing my outline now. That's awesome. That's a huge accomplishment. Like outlines take me forever. I will spend like weeks on just the outline. Maybe not weeks, maybe like, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes if it's a really, really heavy outline when I'm brainstorming stuff. But I'm finding now that I'm starting to get a better understanding of my writing process. I think like it took a couple of books and like me doing this consistently to really start to understand what different phases I have to go through in order to have a completed book. So it's going to be interesting to write this third book. I have a schedule. I just filmed my goals for 2022 video yesterday, and I have a bit of an ambitious schedule for writing book 3, and I've never written a book like I've written and then published it within 6 months before. And that's my goal for this year, is to try to get book 3 of the They Stay series out by September. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen, but it's going to really put to the test, I think, this process that I've started to develop. And I'm also trying to like learn a little bit about how time fits into that schedule. So it's not just like writing and drafting, it's also taking the time to process what I've written and process what I've drafted and come up with new ideas and start to feel confident. Like I think that a certain amount of time where it's just like sitting in my brain and I'm like just like playing around with it in my head does make the book better. So I need to figure out like how fast I can actually realistically speed it up where I don't have to compromise on quality where I'm at in my writing career right now. So I don't know, it'll be interesting. It'll be a challenge. Michaela said, sword fighting in general. I didn't know how to write it. Gotcha. Yeah, I remember back when I used to do theater, I did like a lot of Shakespeare plays, and we would have like all like these stage fighting guys come in and like teach us about sword combat on stage. And we got to learn a lot about like sword fighting, like different types of swords and like the different, I honestly, like it was in middle school, so I don't remember everything right now, but I remember being super interested and just like the history and like the real world stuff that would ground all of our Shakespearean sword fighting. So that was really fun. Um, are you all ready to do another sprint? I think 30 minutes worked really well for me. Go fill up your coffees, and I will probably have to fill up my coffee as soon as we start the sprint now, and your waters, or get a snack. I am going to restart the timer now or reset it. And yeah, I will share my screen. Thank you all so much for coming on here and writing with me this morning, because this is really fun. Like, I love doing accountability stuff, and I really am getting through a lot of my work. So, okay, I'm adding it to the stream. Good luck, everybody. Happy writing. I will see you all after the sprint. All right. How's that sprint for all of you guys? I didn't finish my first chapter. I didn't actually end up sending my first chapter to my editor yet because I came up with a really good idea to add to this first chapter. And so I wanted to do that before I sent it in. I had like a moment in chapter 2 where my critique partners have told me before that it feels like just a little bit too lucky that that thing happened in chapter 2 to help my characters solve their problem. So I found a way to plant the seed for it in chapter 1 and kind of establish it as like part of the world a little bit. So like it doesn't seem as lucky that it just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, because I didn't want it to come out of nowhere. So if I put it in chapter 1, it's not going to come out of nowhere. So yeah, I'm adding that in right now. It's almost done. I think at the beginning of this next sprint, I will end up sending it off to my editor, and then, oh gosh, and then I have to actually start doing my sprints for the day. Yeah, lots of work today. Maybe I'll end up writing the chapter that I need to write later on today after I do some filming. We have to see. I have some plans this afternoon that I might need to schedule stuff around, but yeah, I don't know. I'm also probably gonna have to have lunch soon because I'm getting a little hungry. How was that sprint for all of you? Gauze Tape said, I just drafted the second chapter since I'm burnt out on writing right now. Nice. I'm sorry you're burnt out on writing. It's a terrible feeling, and it's really hard to get energy to write when you're burnt out on writing. Isadora said, I think I will start my first draft today. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, I mean, if you're done with your outline, you might as well. That's so, I love the feeling of starting a new first draft, like before you get into the part where like, oh no, this is actually really hard. Like back when you're like really, really excited and ready to go after writing your outline. At least that's how it's for me. Like I'm always like, I finish my outline and I'm like, oh, I'm God's gift to writing. This is going to be excellent. And I'm going to run into no problems at all. And then I'll get to like, chapter 5 and I'll start to realize, oh, I might need to like back up a little bit and figure out what this problem, or like how I'm going to solve this problem. And I always start my drafts overconfident and then back down from it pretty quickly. And then have to, keep the motivation up to keep going through that draft. Michaela said almost 300 for me. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. Anna said, got distracted, but reread a few spots of my manuscript. Relatable. Very cool. Writing with Alexa said, I have a question. If your story has several point of views, can you just drop one of that character dies or leaves, or is that too choppy? No, well, I mean, obviously you can't keep writing in the point of view of someone who died. I probably wouldn't do this a lot with different point of views. Like it depends. I don't know. I write like first person point of view. And I think that if I only really like, I have 3 points of view in my series right now. And if one were to die, I would just drop off their point of view, but I wouldn't have like a lot of them die, because then that would, and like introduce new ones, because that might feel a little choppy. Like I think if one of your point of view characters die, that's a really, really, really big deal in your manuscript. So I think, it's absolutely possible. Like I know some famous dystopian books that kill off a main point of view character. No spoilers, but some of you might know what I'm talking about, and then they just drop off that point of view and have the other point of view carry the rest of the book. So I don't know, but I don't know about leaves though. Like I think that if you have a point of view character, you want to make sure that they're really wrapped up in the action of the story. So they wouldn't really be in a position where they would just leave halfway through the book. It depends on the context. If you give me a little bit more context, then I can give you my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. You might want to just write it the way that you think it would be best, and then you can see what beta readers think after you submit it to them or have other eyes on the book outside of it. But yeah, I would take that seriously and like treat that as a heavy thing. Like I wouldn't do it for more than one character. And if you do it for a character, like make sure that it's very justified and that it's like the other characters react to it in some sort of profound way. This is me saying this, not knowing what your story is about. Renee said, I didn't realize I'd paused the live feed. I ended up having a really long sprint. Oh, that's so funny. Well, I hope that it was productive. That could be, a good thing as well. That's really funny. Something I would do. Isadora said, I only found your channel recently and it's already one of my favorites on AuthorTube. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad. Yeah, one of my goals for 2022 is to start posting content like twice a week instead of once a week, and like really sticking to a consistent posting schedule. So I'm already building up like a backlog of content because I do enjoy doing YouTube, but I have found like this year that when I'm like really busy with writing stuff for deadlines, I always prioritize writing over making YouTube videos. So I'm like really trying to create backlog of content so that if I do have to miss weeks, there are still videos being released. I've created this whole big system for it. So starting next week or this week, I'm going to start being more active than I ever have on this channel before. So definitely up in my YouTube game this year. Thanks for answering. Oh yeah, well, of course, I hope that helped. If you want to, let me know any more context, you can always email me too if you have any more specific questions about it. I'm happy to help a little more. It's hard to answer questions when I don't know the entire context of the story, but I'm always happy to give my 2 cents. But as I preface it, it's only my opinion. All I can give you is my opinion. There are so many different ways to write stories. When is the next sprint? So I'm sprinting every Saturday for the rest of this month. I always do sprints on Saturdays at 10 Eastern time. So I will have one next Saturday at 10 Eastern time, and then the Saturday after that, so the 22nd and the 29th. And then I haven't set my schedule for February yet, but we will probably be doing the 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month. I don't know. I usually plan them out about 3 to 4 sprints in advance. So I will set my February schedule toward the end of January. But there are 2 more sprints this month. I'm sprinting every weekend. Yes, 2 videos a week is tough. Yeah, it is. I'm going to see if it works. This is just my goal, and I want to see if I can do it. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I already have 2 videos. I mean, the hard part for me is always sitting down to film the videos because I get really tired after I film a couple of videos at a time. So once I actually have the content, it's not hard for me to edit the content together. That is kind of fun, and I don't really it doesn't take a lot of energy out of me. It's always finding the time to really sit down and taking all of the hours in a row to film all of the content together. So I think as long as I can keep on top of that, I can have a video edited. But my goal right now is to post a video every Monday and every Wednesday, and then sprint every other Saturday. So that's my new kind of content schedule that I'm going to see how long I can stick to. Worst case, there are definitely going to be some weeks where I only post once a week, but I'm really my goal this year is to not miss weeks and be very intentional about filming content. But it takes such a long time to really produce content that I'm proud of and to film it and to edit it together. It takes hours. So I don't know. I think spacing it out over the weekend, making sure okay, by this time every week I have this many videos written, and by this time every week I have this many filmed, and then having it all scheduled like that, I think will make it easier. But I've also started filming more TikToks and stuff, which takes a lot of time and energy. So this introvert's doing her best on social media. I'm trying, guys. Zari the Goddess said, can I still use your writing tips to write a verse novel? What? Verse novels, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never written one. That's a novel in poetry, right? Paradise Lost, the John Milton epic, that is a verse novel, right? I'm not completely sure. I think so. I mean, I'm not very good at writing poetry at all. I cannot write poems. I took a poetry class in college, and my professor told me that all of my poems were too literal, and that I had to get a little bit more creative with the way that I use language. So I'm not a poet, but I think that you can probably use a lot of the story structure advice that I give on this channel for writing a verse novel, because a verse novel should theoretically still be a story. You just tell it in a different way. So I do have a lot of videos that talk about story structure and ways to create narrative. So I think that you can definitely use my advice in that regard. But I also think that you probably have a different audience that reads a book for a different reason when they write or read a verse novel than they do like a prose novel. Because I have worked like the way that I've worked to try to get my prose to be is like I just want to be able to write prose that really blends into the background that people don't really like have to think that, oh, they're actually reading a book. Like I just want them to be able to like ingest the story. So I think that if people are reading a verse novel, they are probably more interested in the language part of it, maybe. This is, me talking about something I really have no experience doing, or, just so take this with a grain of salt because I'm not an expert on verse novels. But I think that you should be able to still use all the story stuff because I think even if people are reading a verse novel for the language and enjoying the poetry side, they can also enjoy a good story if you have a tightly plotted and put together story. So I wouldn't, listen to me talk about the actual prose stuff and all the, unique voice stuff that I talk about on the channel. But definitely the story stuff, maybe, but potentially. I also haven't read any verse novels that haven't been Paradise Lost. I took a class on Paradise Lost in college and just like spent an entire semester deep reading that verse novel and diving really deep into it. So that's the only experience that I have with verse novels, but that sounds very cool. Verse novels. Yeah, I'm very impressed that you're able to do that because I could never do that. It's like, historical fiction. Like these, I'm very impressed by you all and the projects that you are taking on. All right, so how are we feeling about doing maybe one last sprint? I think we've already been going for about 2.5 hours. Do we want to do one last 30-minute sprint? And then we can call it a day. I just think that, 3 hours is a long time. We should all probably go have some lunch or, take a little bit of a break, and then we can go back to writing in the afternoon. I am going to share my screen. Does this work for all of you? Are you all good with a 30-minute sprint? I will start the timer. I hope you all have a very productive writing session or a reading session or anything that you're doing. And I will see you all after the sprint. Happy writing, everybody. All right, our last sprint is over. Was that productive for all of you? How did you do? What did you accomplish? What did you work on? I finally sent that chapter off to my editor, and I wrote just under 400 words of this new chapter that I have to get written today. I think I'm getting pretty hungry, so after we end this sprint, I'm gonna go get some lunch and then probably resume work on it a little bit later. Just try to get all of the words down for this section, just so I can let it sit for a little while and then go back and edit it before having to send it off next week to my editor. So that's all going well. I got a lot of work done this sprint this morning. I'm very, very glad that we did this and that we all held each other accountable as we worked. Yeah, I hope that was all good for you. Gauze Tape said, I wrote a little bit more. I'm still figuring out this next chapter. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to get some writing done. Isadora said, very productive. I started my first chapter and wrote nearly 600 words. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you that you're starting your first chapter and starting to write your draft. That's so exciting. I would love to hear about what your book is about, maybe next sprint. If you come to our next sprint on Saturday, yeah, I'd love to hear about what you're working on. Thank you so much for coming to the sprints. These, would be very lonely if you didn't all show up to write with me. Anna said, a few more pages reread. Thanks for the experience. No, thank you so much for coming. Seriously, I'm very, very grateful that you all showed up today. Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for popping in. I'm so glad that you were able to catch the last 30 minutes. Yeah, this was a fun one. I actually this is, I think, the longest sprint I've ever done, but this was really fun and very productive. And yeah, I'm so glad that we did it. If you enjoyed the sprint, don't forget to like it. We are doing another one of these next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I do them all at the same time to make it easier to remember. And yeah, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And I will see hopefully some of you next week for our next sprint. Yeah, happy writing, everybody. And it's a fantasy YA with a dash of horror. Oh, that sounds cool. I don't read a lot of YA fantasy, but I do love reading YA horror, even though it scares me. All right. I hope you have a great weekend and rest of your week, rest of your weekend and great next week, everyone. I will see you later. Happy writing. Bye, guys.